No backup plans. No ammo? No problem. Austin is thrown out of the ley line onto a piece of flat stone no bigger than a banquet table. High walls rise on all sides. An impossible place, a hiccup in the ascendant energies. It will do. She measures the space to the far corner of the stone cell, then faces the rippling wall of energy that deposited her there. She thrusts her hands back into the flowing magic and uses her skills as a Wayfinder to churn the boundaries of the line. Soon, the undertow takes hold, and the activity is enough to draw the attention of anything scrabbling through the darkness. She rests, then reaches again into the swirling magic, feeling for something that does not belong. The outstretched arm of a hive thrall, groping blindly through the turbid energy. With worrying immediacy, she finds one, thin and brittle. Part of it still remains shift-bound to an unknown plane. Her hand snaps shut, and she twists, feeling the limbs splinter in her grip. The creature shrieks. She steps back and uses the last of her magic to spread a thin crystal wall across the air in front of her, just as a horde of Xivu Arath's ravenous hive, lured by the sound of suffering, force a breach into the line. They puddle and then pool, forming a deep well as they flow into her trap, held fast by the crush of their compatriots. The clot of ravenous hive builds, their claws scraping against the crystal. Austin sits with her back to the barrier and waits for her queen. Nothing Manacles. The equations balance thus. You are diminished, and I am exalted. You are broken, and I am made strong. Jari drifts face up through the amethyst eddies. She maintains her focus, keeping her mind calm so that she can stay nestled in the magic flow between places without emerging, without attracting the hive. She can sense them around her, their foul presence charging the ley lines, waiting for a pocket of potential space to materialize. She needs to keep them here, wherever here is, as she doesn't know where she landed after the eruption of energy that threw her from the line, and far from the dreaming city, from Mara. The thought of Mara's return sends a thrill of hope through her. She can almost see Mara's face framed in a lilac mist. The effect is subtle, but immediate. Gently, the current of the ley line changes course, bringing Jari back to her queen. With a start, she pushes the thought of Mara out of her conscious mind. She thinks instead of stillness, of the flickering blackness of the bleak plains, of the awful limbo of being trapped between worlds. She desires it, begs for it, and the current obliges. It calms, and Jari floats aimlessly once more. Better to die in this barren realm than lead the hive back home. Radiant dance machines. Built for swift movement, they provide unexpected and decisive social benefits. Quick-minded Ilea allows herself to be swept along in the plane's pulsing surge of energy. In the space around her, Xivu Arath's hive growl and click, tearing at the layer of magics with their teeth. They can feel she is close. She trails her fingers through the energies, making a broad ripple as she pulls toward the place she found before, when she was groping blindly for a way home. There. She twists in the stream and lets herself become known. Relief colors the air around her, promising the dreaming city, Savathun held still in stone, vulnerable for the first time in untold billions of years. The hive shriek in triumph, shimmering into focus as they converge on her plane. Ilea wraps herself in the whisper of a spell and pushes out of the ley line. The roaring hive surge hungrily out of the rupture behind her and tumble into nothing. Dangling from a ribbon of runes, Ilia watches their long fall into the distant black stone of a forgotten place. The spell cuts into her hand as she pulls herself back into the stream. She wraps the plane around herself once more, clears her mind, and waits. Eternal Recurrence. The faster you go, the sooner you come back around. Julian Till. Petra Vinge found Julian on the range, as she had expected. A lone figure lying face down on the ridgeline, sighting a barely visible target on the far side of the ravine. "You never really needed a spotter, did you?" "No," Julian replied, squinting up at her. "But I always liked the company." He offered her a rangefinder. "Care to join me?" Petra settled down beside him and sighted the next target. Julian pressed his eye to the Supremacy's massive scope. "I heard he's back," he said. "Then you heard wrong." Petra squinted through the rangefinder. "You know how it is with Guardians. He goes by Crow now." Julian snorted. Ironic. Only Uldren could make immortality a demotion. "Wind is 16 kilometers per hour from your 9, 4,700 meters out," Petra replied. "Send it." Julian let out a long, slow exhale. Then, a deafening boom as the Supremacy kicked. Petra didn't bother to check the target. "He took a lot of abuse after he rezzed," she said, breaking the silence before it could fully settle. "And never knew why. Gave him a bit of humility, if you can believe it." Julian lifted his head, shifting his focus from the scope to Petra's inscrutable expression. He raised an eyebrow. "I'd like to see that for myself." "I know." Petra pressed her lips together in sympathy. "That's why I'm here. Mara thinks it best if we limit his contact with others." "Keeping him in her pocket, huh?" Uldren might have changed, but it sounds like Queen Mara's the same as ever. Petra's tone hardened. "Be that as it may, you've got your orders. Stay away." "It's fine," Julian said with a smile. It did not reach his eyes. "I've gotten used to Uldren being dead. Probably best he stays that way." Reefborn Warbird. "Fly to the end of existence, and then come back to me." Queen Mara Sov. Petra pressed her hand to a tall ivory door. She could hear Mara Sov speaking to the Guardian as if the Awoken weren't in desperate need of assistance. As if the kingdom was standing and resplendent, the ley lines unpolluted by the hive and taken rot. The throne yet to be despoiled. Her first year battling the curse loop had convinced Petra that she would be able to master this eventually. There was an answer, some sequence she had yet to uncover that would guide them through. But she'd plumbed every depth of her resources just to lose ground. Her queen was keenly aware of this fact, of their losses, of hers. Petra selected the most pertinent reports in her head as Mara ended her communique. "Enter Petra." Mara's voice was clear and hummed in her head as she pushed the door open to a private meditation chamber. A Wayfinder's compass shimmered as it phased between planes in a controlled binnacle sphere. "My queen," Petra said. "The reports can wait," Mara interrupted. "I've been surveying Xivu Arath's advance through the ascendant space that surrounds us, along with the records of your defense here." The Wayfinder's compass froze for a moment, focused on a specific discrepancy within the ley lines, a flaw. "I believe that without your stalwart determination, this city would have been lost long ago." Petra opened her mouth to speak, but could only manage an awkward grin of disbelief. Mara smirked and continued. "I was right to assign you this position. I want to express my gratitude for the sacrifices you've made." "Thank you, my queen." Petra swallowed her next words. She wanted to say, "I know it has not been easy." Mara plucked the words from her tongue. "You walked a difficult path to attain that which many said was unattainable. Such paths often exact tolls. There are no great victories, but to edge out defeat is often enough. You have some experience in this, my queen?" Mara's eyes flashed, sending tension through Petra's muscles for a moment before Mara let go a thin chuckle. Petra uncoiled, but her mind could not relax. She watched the revolution of the compass. "I do. In this we are known to each other," Mara reassured. "The ones you lost were like sisters to you." "Yes." Petra has known several of them as corsairs under her command. They had bled by her orders. Some were friends. Yet here she stands, gazing out to sea from her widow's walk. Mara gently brushes her cheek. "Be still your mind, Petra. I feel them calling. As I return to you, so shall they." Centerfire.
I still prefer the Elixni method of scrapworking, but I admit that the Guardian's ships are very handsome.
Ido, Elixni scribe. Ido pored over a datapad, catching up on the Cryptarch's version of the 100 Years' Siege. She clicked her mandibles in fascination. Their history of events was entirely different from those taught to Elixni hatchlings. She was honored to be the first to measure the historiographical gap between their two species. A human male approached her and made a rough, grating sound from his neck. Ido knew humans often used this sound to attract attention. She found it distressing.
"Yes, Matsuo Cryptarch."
Ido shifted the datapad to her lower arms.
"What do you need?"
"Miss Ido." The smallest human bobbed his head. "I'm hoping you can weigh in on a rather delicate matter."
"Yes, I have excellent dexterity,"
Ido replied.
"Go on."
The Cryptarch smiled. "I'd like your first-hand account on the Tekkens. You studied under them for a time, correct?" Ido put down the datapad.
"It's true, but I think that your sibling house, the Reef Cryptarchy, will have better information."
He tensed the flesh around his mouth. "I'm sorry to say that the relations between the Tower and the Reef Cryptarchies are not always as forthcoming as we'd like. Besides," he continued, "your primary account as an Elixni would be invaluable." Ido paused to collect her thoughts.
"I will start by saying that the Tekkians are very frightening."
"Frightening?" Matsuo pressed. "How so?"
"The Guardians use power from the outside. They shoot with metal or spark with electricity. They punch."
Ido clenched her upper fists.
"They destroy the body."
Matsuo recorded assiduously on his own datapad.
"But the Tekkians use power from the inside,"
Ido continued.
"They manipulate the mind the way splicers manipulate data. They create visions. They penetrate dreams. They speak with the voice of the listener. If a Guardian kills me with violence," she explained, "I am Ido until my death. But if a Tekkian controls my voice, am I still Ido?"
Lorentz Driver. Weapon system no longer explodes when trigger is pulled. Prototype 7.2.1. Revision notes.
"What about this rifle?"
Scorso asks over the sound of two brigs moving cargo. Her overseer, a 3-armed vandal named Pixie, pulls back the drop cloth covering it. He takes a moment to assess the way the rifle is pieced together from non-weapon components, then motions toward where the brigs are walking.
"Good meals can still spoil,"
Pixie says.
"Bring it. But all these spare parts can be left behind.
Scorso nods in acknowledgement, but instead of immediately returning to work, she slides up close to Pixie, her eyes darting around the warehouse.
Is this really happening?
She asks in a whisper. Pixie steps away from her as she sets the rifle down on a nearby crate.
Maybe. 2 hands in greeting, 2 hands concealed. It is a matter of survival.
Scorso challenges Pixie's avoidance and circles around the crate, 4 eyes narrowed.
Spider's scared,
she whispers again.
Isn't he?
Pixie quickly leans in.
You say that any louder and I can't protect you from what happens next,
he says in a sharp whisper, glancing over his shoulder.
Where would we even go?
Scorso asks, searching Pixie's many eyes. Her supervisor's answer is a backpedaling shrug.
Don't know,
Pixie lies and gives her a toothy smile.
But like some Elixni say, the light provides.
Wayfinder's shell. You ever hook up a ghost navigation telemetry up to a jump ship? Me neither. But there's a first time for everything. The Drifter. The sound of noisy chewing echoes down a long metal corridor in Spider's lair, interspersed by the beat of footsteps. You ever try any of this? Drifter asks, tugging on the length of chewy, battered meat clenched between his teeth. Spider ambles alongside him, pausing to give him a look.
No,
Spider answers, his respirator hiding the way his upper lip curls in disgust.
What is that, anyway?
Your boy said it was chicken, Drifter notes, nose wrinkled. I'm thinking he ain't never seen a chicken before. Spider's sigh is muffled.
The reason I asked you here,
he says loudly, forcibly redirecting the conversation,
is because I wanted an honest, unfiltered opinion on the situation in the city right now.
It tastes like petroleum and bubblegum, Drifter mumbles, pulling the wad of meat out of his mouth.
Drifter.
Drifter raises one brow as he looks back at Spider and claps a hand on the big Elixni's shoulder. Come on, I know what you're looking for, he says with a laughing confidence. You want old Drifter's seal of approval on moving your operation. Spider is silent, but resumes walking at Drifter's brisk pace. The kill of kills runs a tight catch, Drifter says as he flicks the chewed up meat onto the floor. That whole mess with the future war cult aside, things are looking up for his people. Drifter glances at Spider, then jabs his side with 2 fingers. Emphasis on his.
A fine time for humanity to start differentiating between us,
Spider sneers.
But they let you stay there, so they can't be too discerning.
Let is a bit strong, but I get your point, Drifter says. The hallway ends at a large pair of closed doors. Unguarded, Drifter notices.
Now that Marasov has returned, I think my days here in the reef might be numbered.
Spider explains as he flips open a rusted panel, then keys in an access code. The doors jerk to life and slowly grind open.
She may have had some hard feelings over my little bird,
he adds over his shoulder with a laugh.
And let's be honest, she seems like the type to hold a grudge.
A bright light spills past the open doors, and Drifter is eclipsed by Spider's shadow.
So no,
Spider says as he swivels to face the Drifter.
I don't want your seal of approval.
Spider steps to the side, allowing the Drifter to look more fully at what is hidden away in the hangar. A ship.
I want to know if you can smuggle me out of the reef.